Hi, this is Andrew, and you're listening to Knott, a podcast. Welcome back. This week's intro, I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to try to talk about writing technique and craft a little bit, hopefully in like a non-pretentious way, if that's possible. Just wanted to discuss a little bit how I write pieces like the one I'm reading today, because it's a technique I use quite a bit. So this story was in my newsletter that you can find at andrewknott.substack.com. It was in there recently, a few weeks ago. And basically it's about me seeing parents out in public with young kids and getting nostalgic about it. And then of course there's like a twist at the end, which I won't give away, but a lot of the stories like this one, which I write a lot and I enjoy writing, they're based on like very small events or things that happen to me in my daily life. They're very small events, like in this case, literally seeing a mom pushing a grocery cart with their two little boys in it. So to make a full essay or story or whatever out of something like that, something that small, it takes work. And why would anyone do that type of work? I don't know, but it's just what I've ended up doing with my life. So I won't get into that. But when I was first starting out writing, I typically tried to stay pretty close to like the real life, what was happening, just kind of going through what happened, this happened, that happened. I'd kind of just recount things and then maybe try to add a few jokes or make connections to something else to try to make it interesting in a funny way. So obviously there's like lots of ways you can build these type of stories from small things into bigger things to make them interesting. But one way I've enjoyed in recent years, I tend to do a lot, is kind of toe that line between nonfiction and fiction. I think a lot of writers do this in different ways. It's been pretty popular on various platforms that I read lately. A lot of writers use inner monologue, where they kind of intersperse what they're thinking. Usually they'll like italicize it. So they'll put what they're thinking in between their description of whatever's happening. So I always assume that a lot of that inner monologue is fiction or fiction adjacent, but I guess it could go either way. And I do that sometimes, but I also like to add like events or asides or little small vignettes within the story that kind of fit. But the idea is kind of maybe make it seem like believable in some way, but also kind of give some tells that it's pretty clearly fictional or at least highly exaggerated. Because in the end, I'm not writing history or anything here. Like the goal is to make it fun, entertaining, hopefully. Sometimes the best way to do that is to add a little something extra, kind of push the boundaries a little bit. Our daily lives, activities can sometimes be, mundane, but if you put the right filter on it, you can make it fun, hopefully. Maybe I did that with this one. Maybe I didn't. At least I tried. I think in this story, you'll probably spot where I began to kind of stray from real life, but I'm often surprised. It pretty much never fails when I post a story like this online that I'll get a comment like, "Is this real?" And honestly, like, I love that. It's like the best, highest compliment. So before I read the story, I'll give you one quick note on one part of it that I kind of imagined, and why I did it, because it's a kind of an odd reference, or where the reference comes from is odd. So I don't know if you're familiar with this movie, but there's a old Steve Martin movie called The Jerk. So it's like the one movie that I've seen that my wife hasn't, probably. But she's a big movie fan. I'm not. So I'm always not getting references that she makes. But the one reference that I make all the time is from this movie. And there's like this specific part of the movie where the Steve Martin character is being hunted by like this crazy guy killer who picks his name out of the phone book, I think, to try to like assassinate him. And the Steve Martin character works at a gas station, and he's like outside in front of this pyramid of probably oil cans or stack of oil cans. And the sniper like shoots and like starts shooting holes in the cans. And Steve Martin yells, "He hates these cans." So I always make that reference anytime cans come up. I don't know in what context that cans come up, but it happens. And then Steve Martin runs in front of the vending machine, and the guy shoots at that. He's like, "There's cans in here too." Uh, so anyway, that was the reference that I was thinking of when I added a little made-up vignette about cans in a grocery store. Um, I don't know why that movie is stuck with me, or that scene in particular. I think it's because, like, when I was in my probably early 20s, teens maybe, I don't know, I watched that movie a bunch of times for whatever reason, because it was always seemed like it was always on one of the cable stations like TBS. Um, like, I don't know why I was watching it so much, but like, I don't know what was going on with my life then, but I was thriving clearly, in one way or another. So anyway, that's just a little, like, that's the type of connections I sometimes add into my stories that are very random, and sometimes like only I would understand them, but hopefully when I put them in the story, or at least I'm the only one who would understand where they came from, the reference, even though it's not actually a reference in this case, to that movie. It's just more about the idea of pyramid of cans came from that movie for me. And I used it in the story. So you'll see when you listen. Anyway, that's all I got on that. Go ahead and read the story now. And I hope you enjoy it. This week's story is called "I Had This Strange Urge to Share a Moment of Connection with a Random Parent, but I Refused to Make It Weird." I was sitting by myself in my car in a shopping plaza parking lot, scrolling my phone for a moment before heading to my next destination, when a mom and her two little kids took me back in time. The mom was struggling to push and cajole a giant, green, car-shaped grocery cart along a row of parked cars, while two small boys sat in the cart seat, twisting and turning the little black steering wheels. I live in Florida, so, of course, this was outside of Publix. I hadn't touched one of those car cart behemoths in years, but I was all too familiar with them. My youngest child is 8 now, but for many years, when my kids were little, every trip to the grocery store featured my personal battle with the green car carts. I always had to hope the car cart was available when we arrived, otherwise there would be drama. If one was available, there would also be drama, because one child or another would want to sit somewhere or spin the wheel in some specific way, or push the giant cart into a pyramid of canned goods. I bet you thought giant pyramids of canned goods only existed on old TV sitcoms, or if they existed in the real world, went out of style decades ago. You'd be right, with one exception. Between 5 and 8 years ago, store managers started hastily setting up the pyramids again anytime my children and I went shopping, to provide shoppers and store employees with some light entertainment. "Mike, hurry up with the cans. Yeah, set it up right there on aisle 6 where the fruit snacks are. That one dad is in the parking lot and it looks like the oldest kid is insisting on driving the car cart. This is going to be one for the ages, LOL." Cans or no cans, the cart was pretty impossible to maneuver in the tight grocery store aisles under the best of circumstances. And grocery shopping with small children is far from the best of circumstances. For years, the car cart haunted my dreams on many a night. Sometimes I miss it. As I watched, the mom eventually parked the cart behind her SUV and wrangled her groceries and children where they needed to go. I could feel her sigh of relief when she shut the trunk door and pushed the cart aside. I remembered what it felt like when every small trip outside the house was a fight for survival. I think I finally reached that stage of parenting where I feel the urge to share moments of connection with other parents who are doing the things I used to do. I don't know why. I guess it's because time comes for all of us and turns us into nostalgic saps. If I wasn't so far away, I might have walked by the mom and said something like, "I fought my share of battles with that cart." That would have cracked her up, I bet. Maybe I would have offered to return it for her because I had nothing else to do. After all, my kids were at school, and I was free to sit in my car and spy on people. Instead, I just sat and watched because interacting with strangers isn't my thing, and I didn't want to seem super weird. I've got to keep the weirdness to myself. Well, I'll share it with you guys, but that's where it stops. However, as luck would have it, another opportunity for a shared parental connection arose just a few days later. I returned to the same shopping plaza on another school day, this time to pick up lunch at Chipotle. Look, everyone has to eat, and I freely admit I don't have a lot going on. I grabbed my order from the shelf and was about to exit when a young woman pushing a stroller pulled open the glass door. She was clearly struggling. She shifted the stroller this way and that, trying to find the right angle while propping open the door with her foot. The man in front of me raced through the open door without stopping, helping, or acknowledging her at all. What a jerk. I sprang into action. Gallantly holding the door, she nodded her thanks and moved past me. The stroller was zipped up, so I couldn't see who was inside. Oh, the little guy or girl must have been sleeping. I came so close to saying, no problem, I've been there. But again, I held back. A connection I craved was really with my past self, so I was getting everything I needed out of these interactions without being creepy. Plus, my actions, kind of half holding the door for a young mom, were objectively heroic, and I was ready to ride that high all day. I sat down at the table outside Chipotle and enjoyed my veggie burrito, basking in the glow of my accomplishment. I was alone, yes, but at least I had that feeling of superiority to cling to, and my memories of years gone by to flip through in my mind while I frittered away the minutes until the final school bell rang. My, how things change. One day you're struggling to push a stroller through a door, or a giant car cart around the grocery store, and the next you spend most of your time waiting for your kids to come back to you. It's the circle of life, I suppose. I wadded up my empty burrito wrapper and turned to find a trash can. A couple of tables over, the woman with the stroller was seated outside, meticulously picking bits of onion out of a plastic cup of pico de gallo. At this point, it was beginning to feel like fate. I was destined to experience a moment of connection with a parent, if only once. I was on the verge of speaking up when movement from the stroller caught my attention. A small head popped up from below table level, and it was very furry. It also had neatly trimmed bangs and pointy ears, and a black, shiny nose. A doggy. I pivoted seamlessly. Ma'am, your little guy is adorable, and you just have to see my big little guy named Hades. He's a Labradoodle puppy. 8 months? 9 months? I don't know. Somewhere around there. Time sure does fly. Here, look at this picture. My wife got this novelty towel as a gift, and you're not going to believe it, but the dog on the towel is just a random dog. Like a stock image or something. I thought it might have been based on a photo of Hades, but no. So cute, right? It is nice how our fur babies are always there waiting for us when we come home, isn't it? I mean, we don't bring them with us, of course. Have a great day, you two. Those meaningful connections with other parents you start to crave when you reach a certain age and stage of your parenting journey, they're often right in front of you, sometimes in unexpected places. All you have to do is keep your eyes open and be ready to seize the moment. Just make sure you don't make it weird. What is truth? What is fiction? I'll leave it up to you to decide. Thanks for listening to Knott, a podcast. Check out my Substack for more stories and make sure to like and subscribe. I'll catch you next time.